All yours.
Good. Hi guys, happy Saturday. Welcome in everybody. I'm Sarah Ellis with Beadalon, and today our class is, we're really going to do a lot of talking. We're going to put together a necklace, but the main thing that I want you to take away from today's class is that we are going to talk about a bead board and how to use a bead board when you are creating your jewelry. I know there are a lot of people that have bead boards and maybe they use them or they just pile things on top of them and they forget about them. And maybe they don't get the use that they should. And then there are others who cannot do anything without their bead board. They absolutely must design with it. So I'm going to try to find that happy medium where everybody remembers that they have one or maybe considers getting one, because in my opinion, they really are a great thing to have on hand. And they definitely make making necklaces and even bracelets a whole lot easier. It's much easier to design in a U shape to kind of get an idea of what your design is going to look like than it is to design in a flat, just a flat surface. And it's also going to help you with the measuring as well. So I'm going to talk you through the bead board itself. We're going to talk about a few things that are part of the bead board, and then we're going to put together a simple stringing project. We're going to put together a necklace. This is just going to be straight stringing. Hopefully I can inspire you with my design to go out and create your own, or maybe just kind of, spark your creativity to use some beads from your own stash, but maybe go buy a bead board, right? Okay, so I'm going to turn you guys around, and I do want to mention before we get started with the project, the bead board is a little bit larger than the camera screen. So I may have to move the bead board back and forth just a little bit. So just know that you may not see the entire bead board in the entire shot, but I'll do the best that I can to make sure that you guys can see everything that I'm doing. All right, so let's get to it, guys. All right, so here is the bead board. This one is the one that I got from Michael's. And guys, bead boards come in a lot of different styles, but basically have all of the same elements. So you may have one from a different company, and your little compartments may look a little bit different, but for the most part, they all pretty much work in the same way as far as a necklace board is concerned. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make a bracelet on this board. You absolutely can. But though, for the large part of this board, it is designed to create a single strand or a multi-strand necklace. So let's talk about the different parts of this. In the main portion, you're going to have these grooves here. This is where you are going to be able to lay out your beads to really get a look at what your design is going to be. And again, like I mentioned, it has that U shape. So it's really going to kind of help you to see how the drape is going to work. And you can kind of use this to correlate how it would fall on your body. There are also measurements on the board. It starts down here at the 0. That's going to be the center of your design. And then it counts out on inches on both directions. So you can help to keep track of the measurement of your piece as well. So why is that important? Well, if you've got a customer that is looking for a custom size, it's definitely going to help you that way. If you're going to be making necklaces for yourself and you've got a necklace that is the perfect length that you absolutely love and you want all of your necklaces to fall on your body in the same way, you can take that exact necklace, lay it in one of the grooves, and then mark to show where that falls, how long it is. And then you can recreate necklaces in that same length. So it's really, really handy guide to have. In the center here, some of these are going to be in inches as well. Some of them, depending on what kind of beadboard you have, are going to be in millimeters and centimeters. Okay, so sometimes you're going to have both of those measurements. It just really kind of depends. So you have the 3 channels here in the front, right? You have the small compartments. Usually all beadboards have compartments of some variety. They may be a different shape. They may be placed in different places, but you've got little areas where you can put all of your findings and your beads and have everything here. It's nice and flocked so that your beads and all of your findings are not going to roll away, which is great. Okay, so mine also has a center compartment here. This is a great place to put your bead cups if you've got beads in cups. And that way they're easier kind of to transfer from the bead board to back into the container if you want to do it that way. You can lay all of your findings here if you want, your tools. Some of your tools will fit here as well. And then this one also has some containers up here on this end. These are great for head pins, eye pins, things like that, that, you know, you definitely don't want to have to look for. You can have them right here. So another feature of the bead board that is really cool is that you can make a really long necklace. So you can start down in the bottom grooves and you can work your way all the way back around the back so that you can make opera length necklaces. But you can also use this bead board, the back portion of the beadboard, to create a bracelet as well. You've got this nice long straight section here, and it's going to give you your standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.5-ish length to create a standard size bracelet. Now, obviously, if you need a larger bracelet, you can come down the sides a little bit more if you want to, you know, if you need a longer bracelet. But it is a great straight section here, and it is marked so that you can measure out anything that you need as far as bracelets are concerned, or even pendants. If you're working on a small beaded section, you can lay it back here just to get a good measurement for it. So those are pretty much the basics of the beadboard as far as what it looks like, and you know, just overall where you can kind of place things. But let's talk a little bit more about the three grooves that are here for multi-strand designs. So the grooves in the beadboard are situated so that your strands, if you put a strand in each one of these grooves, they're going to be roughly 1/2 inch apart from each other. So what does that mean? That means that when you fill your beadboard up, okay, if I filled this section up with beads, right, to make the bottom strand of my necklace, and then I put another one here and another one here. When I brought the ends together and crimped them and finished them, those 3 strands are going to hang 1/2 inch between each other. That's not a whole lot of space. So a lot of times when I'm making a multi-strand design and I'm using the beadboard to do it, I stick to the outside groove and the inside groove, because that's going to make those 2 strands hang about 1 inch apart, which is really kind of the look that I'm going for. But again, you can work that out however you want to. Just know that 1/2 inch between strands is really not a lot. So don't think that you're going to have a 3-tiered necklace and there's going to be a lot of extra space there. It's only 1/2 inch. So if you really want the 2 strands to be separated and have their own kind of space, you want to use the inner chamber here and the outer one instead of this center one. Okay, but play around with it. The results are going to be a little bit different. There are a lot of things that go into the measuring, so let's talk about that for a second. When you are measuring your necklaces, you have to consider that the measurements are based on where the hole for the bead is. Now, what does that mean? That means that the size of your bead is going to adjust the measurement just a little bit, right? So if you're using a really large bead, and unfortunately, this is not even as large as what I was looking for. This is a large bead, of course. I was looking for something a little bit bigger out of my stash to really kind of show you and try to use it as an example, but we're just going to have to use our imagination here. So for instance, what I mean is if you had a really, really large bead, understand that it's going to sit further up in the necklace than it would a smaller bead. So you have to kind of take all of that into consideration when you're making your measurements, right? Your smaller beads obviously are going to be closer to the exact measurements, whereas your larger beads, because they're going to sit further up on the strand, right? They're going to sit more here than here. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I know that's kind of confusing until you really kind of think about how much space a bead takes up, right? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about where the hole for the bead falls within the groove. So though we may place it in the groove here, it's really going to sit more up this way, right? So that in turn is going to make the necklace a little bit shorter. So your measurements are all going to be just slightly off. They're going to be pretty close and pretty accurate, but again, your bigger beads are going to make your necklaces a little bit smaller, and your measurements are going to be just a tiny, tiny bit off. Okay. So just keep that in mind when you're placing things like larger beads or pendants and things like that, that are really going to take up a little bit more space. Okay. So that being said, what we're going to use for our necklace today is a mixture of beads. We're going to be using some of these beautiful rhodonite stone beads. They're in a really pretty pink color. I chose this color because it's natural, but it's also pinky enough to get away with for Valentine's Day. If you are still looking to put together something for Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day. All right, so we're going to be using some of those, and then I have to have a little sparkle with my design. So I am using some of the glass faceted gray and black beads. I'm going to use a variety of sizes from these as well. Now, this is an interesting opportunity with the bead board for a couple of different reasons. So one of the beads that we're going to be using is a rondelle bead. All right. And so a rondelle bead is normally wider, one direction and shorter the other direction. So the measurement for them is usually, you know, a 6x5 millimeter or something like that. Right? It's not a round bead, so it does take up space a little bit differently in the bead board. Not only do the rondelles take up space a little bit differently, but so do your chip beads, right? Because your chip beads are irregular shaped. They are not going to take up a consistent amount of space. So when you are laying out your design, just because 4 chip beads takes up a 1/2 inch on one side of your necklace doesn't necessarily mean that the same amount of chip beads is going to take up the same amount of space on the other side, because they're all shaped differently, right? Which can become challenging. But if you can let go of the sense that everything has to be an equal amount of beads by count, then that is that's really going to free you up and make it more about the measurement than the bead count itself, right? But sometimes that's a hard hurdle to get over when you're a designer. It's really hard, because particularly those of us who like symmetrical designs, it's hard to accept that maybe there's going to be 6 beads that's going to take up a 1/2 inch of space on one side of the necklace, but only 4 on the other side is going to take up the same amount of space. So having the bead board is really going to help to lay it out, and then you can visualize it, and that'll help you kind of get past, you know, those numbers, because sometimes the numbers are not nearly as accurate talking about bead count numbers as it is for the measurements. Okay, so all of that is going to come into play here. Something else I want to mention about the rondelles: I really like using a bead board when I'm working with rondelles because of their shape that is not perfectly round. They will fit in these grooves and lay in the space that I want. Okay, so they're going to lay exactly how they're going to be strung on the design, right? Meaning that if it's a 4x6, I'm going to get an accurate measurement for that 4 millimeters across. But if I were laying these rondelles flat on a flat surface, they may flip over and lay on their sides. So as you are measuring out your design and you're thinking that you've got the measurement just right, you may accidentally be getting that 6 millimeter measurement of your rondelle bead instead of the 4 millimeter measurement, and that can throw the entire design off. So the little channels here on the bead board are going to help you to make sure that your rondelles, as you are measuring, are going to be sitting the way that they need to sit, so you're getting the accurate measurement for those. Okay, so all of that is good information about the beadboard. If there's anything that you've got questions about the beadboard, please don't hesitate to ask. I feel like I've kind of gone over all of the basics here, but if there's anything that I was missing, definitely don't hesitate to let me know. In the meantime, we're going to start putting together a design. So we're going to put some of these tips into practice as we are putting together our design. So on a beadboard, I like to start down here at the middle of the design. Some people like to start building their design from the back and work all the way to the front and then up the other side. But I find that because my beadboard starts here with the measurement on 0, it's easier for me to start in the center and kind of work my way out, which makes it really easy if you want your design to be symmetrical. So when you're using a pendant in your design, a lot of times I don't like for my pendant, and you can see this one has a bail on it. That's kind of a large bail. I don't like for my design or my bail to lay up against my bead stringing wire. I find that that is just a recipe for disaster. It means that there's going to be some abrasion between the pendant and the bead stringing wire if that bead stringing wire is exposed. So I like to thread smaller beads and then have my pendant lay over the top of those beads. So keep that in mind, depending on how it is that you want to work your pendant into your design. And a lot of times I will just lay it down here at the 0, but not in the actual design. Just knowing that that's going to be the center, but I'm actually going to have beads here where this is going to hang over the top of the beads instead. Okay. So just little things like that to keep in mind as you're working. So as far as everything else is concerned, I've showed you guys the beads. We do have these little, I call these daisy spacers. They're just little spacer beads, right? They come on a card the same way the other bead gallery beads come. So I've got some of these. I'm going to use those as little accents between my beads. I'm using some 19-strand silver color bead stringing wire. This is the Beadalon bead stringing wire in the 0.018. Okay. And since this is a silver color and we've got some antique silver color in our pendant and our spacer beads, I'm also going to be using my Findings Variety Pack from Beadalon that is in silver. So this has all of the jump rings that I'm going to need. It also has some lobster clasps in here. So everything I need pretty much is here. Other than my wire guardians, I'm going to be using 2 silver color wire guardians, and I'm going to be using some number 2 crimp tubes to go with my bead stringing wire. Now, before we get too much further into this, I do just want to mention for just a second that you want to make sure that your crimp beads or your crimp tubes are the right size and are going to be compatible with the size of bead stringing wire that you're going to be using. And there is a really handy way to find out to make sure. And that is on the back. It's going to tell you which one of the little findings is going to be the right size for the bead stringing wire that you're using. It's also on the front. So for my 0.18 inch bead stringing wire, I'm going to be using a number 2 crimp tube. I prefer the tubes, but if you prefer the beads, it's right there. Right? You've got your number 1. So there's no guesswork. When you go to buy your bead stringing wire, make sure that you're buying the correct findings to go with it. The information is on the packaging for you. So it's really easy to decide and determine what additional materials you're going to need to make your piece of jewelry. So as far as determining what kind of bead stringing wire you want to use for your project is going to depend on really what you're looking for out of your bead stringing wire. So 19-strand bead stringing wire is really the middle of the road when it comes to bead stringing wire. And what do I mean by that? I mean that your 7-strand wire, or your bead stringing wire rather, comes in 3 sizes. It comes in 7-strand, 19-strand, and 49-strand. And you're going to get a different result from all 3 of those. Your 7-strand is 7 strands of wire that have been twisted together, and then they are nylon coated. The same as with the 19 and the 49. So our 19-strand, you can even see in the picture here, is there are 19 strands of wire that have been twisted together, and then they have this nylon coating that holds them together. together. So you have to think how tiny those little strands are and how important that nylon coating is to keep all 19 of those strands safe. That's why we're going to use a wire guardian. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a little bit. But your 7-strand is really durable and strong, but it has more structure to it. So if you're going to be making small sections of something and you need the structure, the 7-strand is the way to go. The 19-strand is going to have a bit more drape. It is more economically priced. It kind of falls in the middle of the line between the 3 different kinds of bead stringing wire. And it is, it has a beautiful drape. You can knot with it. You can do great things with it. The 49-strand is going to be considered your professional grade. It has the most drape. It is the most supple. It is a little bit more expensive. So that's why the 19-strand is a really good choice, particularly for beginners, because it falls right in the middle of the road. It's going to give you all of the benefits that you're looking for. So I definitely recommend, especially if we're going to do just a single strand project, there's no reason why the 19-strand can't be the one that you go to, right? So that's what we're going to be using for today's project. And I'm going to lay out the beads first. Okay. So let's kind of talk about our design. I mentioned a little while ago about our pendant and how I don't want the pendant and I don't want that bail, the metal part of the bail that the pendant is hanging from. I don't want that to be right up against my bead stringing wire. So I'm going to need some smaller beads to start in the middle here that I can hang my pendant over the top of. Okay. So the smallest beads that I have are the smallest little rondelles on my card of my faceted beads. Okay, so let me cut our strands here. And just put some of those down in our little compartment here. All right, so I want about 8 of these little guys to put in the center of my necklace. So I'm just going to lay these out. And in the beginning, since I don't have anything to push up against the rondelles, these little guys are probably going to want to lay flat instead of lined up exactly like they need to be. So just keep that in mind. Your smaller little rondelles, they have a harder time kind of, you know, standing at attention like they should until we have some other beads around. Okay, so I'm going to put 8 of these in the middle of my design, and they are small enough that that's 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, they're small enough that the pendant itself is going to actually clear over the top of those. So they are going to be the protective barrier and a decorative part of the necklace all at the same time. They're going to protect the bead stringing wire from the movement of my pendant, but they're also beautiful. Now, let's see, since we are having a little trouble getting these guys to stand up, okay, here's an idea. So I'm going to kind of interchangeably use the bead stringing wire and the bead board all at the same time. And we have our little bead bugs for that. I'll explain what these are for. So I'm going to go ahead and grab myself some of the bead stringing wire. Now, depending on what size necklace you want to give yourself at least 2 additional inches on either side of your necklace, so that you have plenty of the bead stringing wire to use to create your crimps. Okay, so I'm going to take one of my little bead bugs, guys. These are just little springs and you can pinch them together like that. You can put one of those onto your wire and that's going to keep your beads from falling off of the edge, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I've added that so I don't have to worry. And I'm going to go ahead and add my beads here. I'm going to thread these beads on to the bead stringing wire, and then we'll put the pendant over the top so I can show you. And I can also kind of put these really close together so that my measurement is going to be accurate when I lay it into the compartment here. Okay, so Okay, so there are 8 beads that are going to start in the center, and I can thread my pendant on, right? And put it over the top of our beads. Now I can hold these beads together with my fingers, okay? And those rondelles are gonna line up, and the measurement is gonna be exact. If I need to come in and put my little bead bugs in really close so that I can be hands-free and get an accurate measurement of just the beads themselves, I can do it that way, right? So now I can look at this and say, all right, that is going to be a little under an inch of beads, right? Just laying it up against the measurement here to see. So don't measure your bead bug, just measure the amount of the beads there. And that's an accurate measurement because we're forcing those rondelles to line up where they need to go, okay? So I know how much space those are going to take up. I don't have to leave the bead bugs on here. I am going to leave one on one end just in case. I definitely don't want my beads to come off. Now I can leave the bead stringing wire in the little groove here, which is perfect because there's still enough room for me to lay out my design, right? Fortunately for us, the bead stringing wire doesn't take up a whole lot of room. Okay, so there we go. Okay, we still have the beginnings of our design going. Now, I want to add some of these really cool chip beads on either side of our necklace. So I'm going to cut this strand and I'm going to put some chips in here. And again, the chips are not going to stand up on their own, right? And the grooves of the beadboard are not going to force those chips until we actually put them on the bead stringing wire, right? So I'm just going to take 3 chips. I'm going to hope that they're going to be pretty much the same size, but if they're not, once they're all lined up, I can add an extra chip to one side or the other if I need to, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put the chips on and then take a measurement and see how much space do those take up. Is it going to be an equal amount? Does one side need an extra chip bead? Saw someone's comment that said the only chips they like are chocolate chips. I feel that in my soul. I agree. Chocolate chips. All right, so now again, can kind of push the beads all together. And now I can look at it and get an accurate measurement. I can see, okay, they pretty much, even though they're all 3 different shapes and sizes of the chip beads, they pretty much take up the same amount of space. So I don't feel like the measurement is off by a whole lot. I'm gonna be just fine with 3 chips on either side, and I'm gonna continue to build out from there. But you can see how once you put it on the bead stringing wire, it makes the beads stand where they need to go. And you can still use your grooves here on your beadboard, right? It doesn't have to be either or. Okay, so I'm going to put another one of these little rondelles on either side just to kind of frame up our little chips. Let's do some more chips here. And you can see I'm using the grooves here along with the little spaces to kind of lay my beads out. All right. So there's 2 kind of chunky chips on that side. I'll put 2 here. I may need 3 on this side because these are a little bit bigger, but you don't know until you try. So we're going to go ahead and thread these on, lay it into the groove and see what we've got. Okay. And then just push all the beads together and take a look and see. So at our center point, kind of have to work around the pendant there to find your center point. So again, those are pretty close too. We're getting kind of lucky here with our chips, but I do not have a problem adding an additional chip if I needed to either side. Makes no difference. I am going to go ahead and put one more. Actually, you know what? Let's do one more chip on either side just for fun. And then we're going to do 2 more of the small rondelles. And then we're going to bring in some of the rhodonite beads in the round shape. I'm going to keep all the chips here more focused towards the front, and then the larger beads, the round beads, for the length portion of our necklace here. So just laying that out. All right, so there's the center of our necklace. This is really kind of the front piece. This is going to be the part that people are going to see the most, right? This is, you know, definitely what I consider the focal point of the necklace. So now we're going to start building out a little bit. I'm going to use some of the larger rhodonite beads that were on the card here, right? So I'm going to use some of these big guys. And in between those, I'm going to place some of our little daisy spacers. So I'm going to lay them into the channels first, and then I will string them on. So I want 3 on this side, and then I also want 3 on the other side. And I'm going to put our little spacers in between there, but I can lay them out before I put them on the bead string and wire to see how that's going to look, right? Okay. So I'm going to thread one of these on. And a spacer. Another one. And a spacer. And then one more of our large beads. And let's just, so that it's even, let's put another one of the small rondelles on the end. So you can see this little section. If you break the necklace design down into sections, we have a section of the rondelles in the center. We have 2 little sections of the chip beads that are separated by a small rondelle, or you can look at it as a section of rondelles that are separate, or that are flanked or framed rather by the small little rondelles. Now, when we look at this section, it's 3 of the rhodonite beads, the larger ones, and it's framed up by the little rondelles. So when you break it down into sections like that, you can really kind of, that'll help you kind of look at things in pieces instead of a great big whole. I feel like with stringing, sometimes people get tripped up with stringing, just straight stringing designs and where to place all of their beads, because they're looking at it in a whole instead of smaller little sections. I feel like if you can break it down into little bite-sized chunks, then it makes it a little bit easier to design. That's just from my experience though. If it's easier for you to look at the big picture, then definitely don't change what you're doing if it works for you, right? Okay, so here's what we've got so far. Just want to kind of line everything up again. Right. Make sure we're pretty much even on both sides, which is what we're going for, right? And if it's off just a tiny bit, it's because of the chips, but it's not enough to be noticeable, right? Okay, so now I want to move into some more of these faceted beads, and we're going to go with some of the larger ones. So I'm going to just cut my strand, put some of those in here so that I can get to them, right? All right, so the next, let's see, actually, I think I want some of the bigger ones next. Some of these larger. We're going to use a mix of all of the sizes here, but I feel like I want to use the bigger ones since we've already got some large rhodonite beads here. I think we should use some of these larger facets. So I'm going to thread a facet on and use some more of the spacers. Okay, just to separate those out, bring that metal up into the rest of the design. Same thing on the other side. Okay. right? So we've got little sections, again, working in smaller sections here. So if you're looking at this little section, now we want to look at this little section, which is sharing the rondelle, the small rondelle. So I want to flank the larger rondelles with a smaller rondelle, right? So that makes a little section, and we want that to match on the other side. So there is that little section on the other side. So let's see, let's just kind of keep building that way. I'm going to do another rondelle, a spacer, a rondelle, and then a small rondelle. Okay, so that's that side. Let's just repeat that over here on the other side. So a large rondelle, a spacer, a large rondelle, and smaller one. Okay. So you can see, just build a little on one side and then build a little bit more on the other side. Okay. So I'm going to just keep going here. We're going to do 3 more sections of the larger rondelles, just like we've been doing. And then we're going to use some of the smaller rondelles to finish off the strand. Okay. So I'm just repeating 2 rondelles with the spacer bead in between. And this little guy has got, whoops. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so we're going to need a few more of the larger ones. I'm going to get those from the card and bring those in. Okay. Just alternating sides. Oh, whoops. So there are some questions about the sizes of these beads. If you guys will give me just a second, I will tell you. Let me grab my gauge here and we can talk about the sizes. So our large rhodonite beads, these are 10 millimeter beads. Okay, so that's what these guys are. As far as our rondelles, the largest rondelles on the card are an 8 millimeter by 9.5. Okay, so it's going to lay in your design as an 8 millimeter bead. And I would imagine that the next size down is probably going to be a 6 by 5, if I had to guess. Yep, that's a 6, or I'm sorry, a by 7. Yeah, a 6 by 7 is the next one down. And then the very small ones are a 3.5 by 4. Okay, just to kind of give you an idea, and always keep in mind that the rondelle beads are going to have 2 measurements. So you're going to get the width measurement, which is going to be how it's going to lay in the design, but then the other measurement is really kind of how tall the bead is. Okay, all right, so we have, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do one more section of the large rondelles on either side here. Okay, so there's that one. We're getting pretty close to a good size necklace here. So you can see we're almost to the 8 on either side. So when you get to the 8, you're going to know that 8 plus 8 is going to give you 16 inches. That's going to be how long your necklace is without the hardware. So keep that in mind. You're going to need to add an inch at least an inch for your hardware. So if you're looking for a 16 inch design, you may want to do less beads, you know, and make your adjustments for your, excuse me, for your hardware, whatever kind of clasp it is that you're going to be using, or not, and let the beaded portion be the measurement. It really, it's only an inch difference. So that's really going to kind of depend on you or your customer if it's going to be a custom design. Okay. All right, so there's one more size of the rondelles on our card here. And these, let me trim our strands here so that I can get some of them off of the card, and then I'll tell you what the measurement on these guys is. So these are going to be 5mm by 6mm. So these are 5x6 rondelles. Okay. I'm going to put 8 of these on and 1 more of the small rondelles, and then we're going to finish our ends. Okay, so there are 8 over here, and 1 of these little rondelles. That's going to be the finish of that side, and we're going to do the same thing over here on the other side. Okay, there are our 8, and then 1 of the small rondelles. Okay, now I'm going to kind of pick this up a bit and make sure that all of my beads, there's not any wiggle room in between there, and kind of lay it back in. I just moved it just barely to see where our necklace is going to fall. It's going to be just barely over, let's see, 18 inches. So once we add, once we add our clasp, we're going to be looking at pretty close to a 20-inch necklace. Okay. And I can tell that by where my last bead falls on the measurement here, and then making my adjustment for about an inch and a half worth of hardware. Okay. So definitely keep all of that in mind. Now, we have our basic design laid out here, and you can see the cool part about the bead board, other than the measurement, is that even though we have a mess, and we do have a mess, you guys, I mean, you can't make jewelry without making a mess. There's no way around it, right? But our mess is contained. I have everything that I've grabbed, all of my stuff, minus some rogue beads over here to the sides of the bead board. For the most part, our mess is contained to right here, which for creative types that can be a challenge. Right? Our messes tend to expand and kind of take over our workspace. So to have everything here in one little area, I can pick this up, I can leave it on here, and I can walk away from it if I'm not ready to finish it off. I can come back to it later, and I don't have to worry that my beads and things, or my findings, or any of the other things that I have on hand are going to roll away and escape and become part of the larger mess that is in my studio space, right? So that's just another bonus for your bead board. Let me move this up so you can kind of take a look at the entire design here. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but I do want to mention, I teach a lot of classes. I have a lot of students, and I get asked very often about straight stringing, because I feel like some of my students look at stringing as not super technical, right? And I always kind of argue to the point that it is kind of technical, because you're breaking it down, you're looking at colors, you're looking at textures, you're looking at breaking things down into sections, and then looking at things as a whole. So stringing is an art all unto itself, right? Even though it's just a single strand of something, it's still an art all in itself. And for those who wonder if a single strand necklace belongs in their booth or it belongs on their web page, because they feel like maybe a stringing project might be inferior to some of their other technical projects that they do. My answer to that is, of course, that stringing is an art unto itself, but that filling up your booth and your website with beautiful pieces is way more important than filling up your booth with or making your booth a visual portfolio of your skills. Do you understand what I'm saying? So one simple, beautiful strung necklace does not represent your skill level. Right? So maybe you're an amazing off-loom beader. Maybe you are fantastic at wire wrapping and you make the most intricate designs. That's great, but your pieces do not have to be a mash up of every single technical skill that you have ever learned. You don't have to prove what you are capable of in every single piece of jewelry, right? Because your customers are going to look at the beauty of the piece. They're looking at the beauty, they're looking at the flow, they're looking at whether or not it's going to go with their favorite outfit or it's going to make them feel beautiful. They're not looking at it and thinking, oh, this is just a stringing piece, so this is not nearly as artful as that wire wrapped pendant in the back of the booth. Don't undersell your stringing projects, I guess, is kind of the point that I'm trying to make here. There is an art involved in this, and some people really struggle with the stringing. The bead board is going to help you tremendously with laying out your project. And stringing projects like this where you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on technical parts and every skill that you've ever learned mixed into it, these make wonderful pieces to put in your booth that are going to bring people in, right? These are going to be your filler pieces because you can make stringing projects that don't take a lot of materials. They do take a lot of beads, but as far as your findings and your wire and things like that, it doesn't take a lot of those kinds of materials to create beautiful stringing projects. These are going to be the pieces that bring your people in. These are going to be the pieces that are going to have your customers coming back for more and saving up and splurging on the intricate designs and the pieces where you've really shown off whatever your skill is, right? Okay, so let's finish off the end here. So we're going to use our tubes for this. You can use your crimp beads if you want to. I'm going to use a crimp tube. I'm going to go ahead and string that on. I'm going to thread on my wire guardian, and again, our wire guardian is protecting our bead stringing wire, just like our beads down here are protecting our wire from our pendant. Same thing with our wire guardian. That is going to protect us from our hardware, right? It's going to protect that nylon coating that's on the bead stringing wire. Okay, so I've thread that through the wire guardian. I have thread that down through the crimp bead, and now I'm going to pull everything down. I want to be sure that my bead stringing wire is not crossing within the crimp tube. I am going to also take that through a bead or two. Okay, and the reason that I'm going to take this through a bead or two is not because of the extra safety measures, because if you crimp correctly, you do not need the extra strength here of your doubled bead stringing thread. It's more or less just to kind of help me pull in a different position other than up here between the last bead and our wire guardian. I have just a little bit more room here so I can make sure that that bead stringing wire is separated out nicely and isn't crisscrossing itself within the crimp tube. Okay, so now I'm going to use my standard crimper tool. I'm going to use that back notch of the crimper tool. This one is the one that is shaped like a piece of macaroni. It's got that tooth that comes down. The tooth is going to bite down on the crimp tube or the crimp bead, and that's going to further separate your bead stringing wire within the crimp tube or bead. Okay, so I'm going to just crimp, and then I'm going to take that tube and I'm going to place it in the front notch this way. This time we're going side to side. Going to pinch that down. That's just going to tidy it up and make it a little bit more compact, right? It makes it much less noticeable in your design. I'm going to come in and trim off the tail here. right? And you can see I've got some wiggle room here. That's because we haven't done the other end yet. So no worries on that extra little wiggle space that was there. All right, so we're going to repeat these steps on the other side. So I'm going to take another crimp, thread that on, wire guardian. I'm going to trim that just a little bit. Okay, so the wire guardian is going to go on, down through the wire guardian, back down through the crimp tube. Okay, and now I'm going to pull everything down. Before I pull down too much though, I definitely want to take that tail through a couple of beads, and then I can kind of snug up on everything. Okay. If you have crimped properly, you don't have to worry that you don't have a double strand of this going all the way through your piece. Okay, so again, just make sure that your bead string and wire is not crossing within that crimp tube. Place that into the back notch, squeeze, place it into the front notch, and squeeze to tidy it up, and then come in with your cutter tool to trim off. Now, all we have left to do to finish our design is to add our hardware, and I'm going to be using our Findings variety pack. I'm going to grab 2 jump rings. Okay, looks like 2 6mm jump rings, but there are plenty to choose from in the variety pack, so you can pick whichever ones you want, and 1 of the lobster clasps. And I'm just going to use 2 pairs of pliers to attach these to our wire guardians. So I'm grabbing the jump ring so that it is between our 2 pairs of pliers. I'm going to move 1 pair of pliers. I'm going to hold one of them still just to open, right? So you're just moving 1 tool to kind of walk that open, thread that on to the wire guardian, and then walk that closed to make sure you get a good closure on that. You don't want your necklace to sneak out of your jump ring. Okay, same thing. Open the jump ring. I'm going to go ahead and thread on the lobster clasp and attach that to our wire guardian on the opposite side and close it back. All right. And that's it. We have a beautiful necklace. We used our bead board. I showed you all of the different ways that you might get tripped up, right? You don't want to get tripped up with your different sizes and shapes of your beads, but you absolutely can work with your bead stringing wire in conjunction with your bead board to make everything kind of stand up. Your larger beads, you're not going to have any problems with those. They're going to stand up exactly like they want, like they need to when you're just laying them out. But things like chips and your smaller beads, they kind of want to fall to the side. So definitely work with the bead board in conjunction with the bead stringing wire to get an accurate measurement for the most part, right? That's really going to help. All right, guys, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to put this on a bust so that you can see this hanging, and then we will say our goodbyes for today. Right. So it helps to see the necklace in that U shape, right? But then I always like to double check by putting it on a bust so that I can really truly see what it's going to hang like. So I use my bead board in conjunction with a bust, or just put it on, you know, keep a mirror handy and have it so that you can see. But you've got really, really beautiful design. It's just a straight stringing project. And I say just, I don't necessarily mean it that way. I mean, it definitely is, it is an art. So I hope that I have inspired you to create some beautiful designs with your beads from Michaels. And I hope that I have kind of, you know, demystified the bead board, because I feel like some people kind of struggle with it. So I hope that I've given you some accurate information on how to use your bead board to further create projects for your booth or your website or just your friends and family, or maybe just yourself. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.